Hi, my name is William O'Connell. I'm the creator of the Materializer wallet. This is something that I and the team at Penguin have been working on for several years now, just tweaking little things, and I'm really excited to finally show it to you. So let's take a look inside. You'll find your wallet here, and there's a few things that you should know about what this is and how it works before you get started. So the basic idea of the Materializer wallet is that this window in the front is actually a special kind of a electronic, almost like a screen, but rather than showing different pictures on it, it can either show you what's actually inside the wallet, or it can just become opaque so that it will hide what is inside and look like the wallet is empty. So one thing to note about that is that this piece here is actually glass. Because it is embedded inside the wallet like this, it's almost like a phone case where if you just happen to drop it or something, it should be totally fine. But just be mindful if you're doing something with coins, you don't want to hit something metal against this really hard. And when you put it in your pocket, if you've got your keys or something, just try to keep them on this side. And that way, it's not going to get scratched or anything like that. You can also keep your ID, your driver's license or some other kind of ID in this front window, and that will help protect it as well and kind of add to the feeling of this being your everyday wallet. Just when you go to insert that, make sure that you keep it in front of the glass. So you've got the fabric layer here, then is this piece of glass, and then there's actually a layer of plastic as well. And so when you're inserting this, you just want to make sure that you're keeping it in the front and slide it in like that. And then you'll also be able to very easily push it out with your thumb like that when you're ready to perform. So that's all there is to see around the front. Around the back, there are two pockets. This first pocket is basically a free space. You can put whatever you want. So it can be your actual credit card or some other card that you want to keep with you, or it could be something for your other magic tricks. And then the second pocket here, you'll notice there's already a card in there. And so this is actually the circuit board that controls the glass on the front. So the first time that you take this out, you just want to be careful because there is a wire that goes from the bottom of this board around here through the wallet. And so as you're taking it out, you don't want to yank this out really hard because you just want to make sure you're careful of that wire. So the first time, just use your thumb and just gently slide it out like that. And there you'll see the wire there that I'm talking about. And this board is what's going to run the shutter glass in the front. So you've got your battery here. Now there may be a little pull tab that you need to pull out to activate the battery. And the other thing you'll need to do is turn on this switch. So this little switch slides back and forth, and this direction is to turn it on. Now, it's not like a lot of other things where you might think, oh, I'm going to have to remember to turn that off. You don't have to turn it off in between performances. You don't even have to turn it off at the end of the day. The only time you might want to use this switch is if you're going to put it in storage, like for weeks or months, or if you're going to put it in the bottom of your bag or something like that, and you're worried that something might be pressing against these buttons at the top, then you can turn it off, and then you'll just make sure it's not going to be activating and using up the battery. But if you're not touching it and you're just leaving it on the table, it's not going to drain the battery quickly, even though it's switched on. You can have it for weeks and it'll sit there and it'll still be ready to go when you do want to use it. So up here are your two buttons, and this is what you're going to use by pressing them through the fabric to activate the wallet. There's also this strip up here that's just white. And so to customize your wallet, what you should do is take any kind of, expired credit card or some other card that it might make sense for you to have in your wallet. And you're just going to cut about 1 centimeter of the top, and you can glue that, or I like to use double stick tape and just stick that over the stripe. And that way, when this is in your wallet, it's going to hide and just look like one of your other cards. There's one other thing that you'll get in the box, and these are these little plastic bumpers. And this is an optional thing that you can attach if you want, depending on how you plan to use it. I like to have them on. What that's going to do is it's going to protect the buttons a little bit more so that you don't trigger them accidentally. So for example, if you just have the wallet sitting on a table, if you apply pressure down on it without the bumpers, that will activate the buttons. And you might find that there's some trick that you like to do where you want to kind of act like you're taking something out of the wallet or something like that. And so you like that you can activate it that way without having to touch the back. But if you're doing routines and you're kind of tossing it onto the table or putting it in someone's hand and you're worried that you're going to accidentally trigger it, then you can just get a little tiny piece of double stick tape, and you're going to stick these on with the kind of wedge part pointing down into the wallet. And that's just going to make sure that it slides in and out smoothly for you. And just like I've done here, you'll stick them on the outside of the buttons. So to the outside of this one and on the outside of this one. And that's just going to provide a little bit more height so that when it is sitting on a table, no matter how much you press on this, it's not going to press those buttons until you intentionally grab it with your hand and press it. So now I'll show you just kind of the basic operation of how to use the wallet, how to make things appear and disappear. All right, so let me just show you kind of the basic operation of how to use the wallet. So this zipper compartment here, this is the main pocket where you're going to put the things that are going to appear or disappear. So like we talked about before, there is this one additional pocket here that would be like for an ID or something. And that's also where this actual glass piece lives. So everything that goes in here, this pocket is actually like plastic on one side and fabric on the other. And so you can put anything you want in there as long as it fits. And you don't have to worry that it's going to scratch this or anything. So there's a zipper on the top. And then, for example, here I have a playing card. You just slide that right in and you'll see it through the window. And now you've got two buttons on the back. And so if you're looking at the wallet from the front, then this button on the right is the one to hide whatever's inside. And the other button will show whatever's inside. Now you just press those with your fingers, however is comfortable. One note, if you are using the bumpers, you might be able to feel those. And because they're very solid and they're a little bit higher than the buttons, you might think that that's the button and actually it's the plastic piece. One thing that helps a lot with that, instead of trying to figure out, oh, am I touching the right thing? You can just use kind of a swiping action with your finger. And that way, if you just slide a little bit like that, you can make sure you'll activate it and you don't have to worry about landing exactly on the button. One other thing to know is there is the timer feature, and this is what's going to let you make things appear inside without even touching it. You can put it in someone's hand or on the table. So whenever you set it to be opaque, to hide whatever's inside, so it just looks like it's empty, that starts a timer of about 8 to 10 seconds. And you have a moment where you can move on with your routine, direct attention elsewhere, and then you'll see that this card is going to slowly fade into view. And it fades instead of just suddenly appearing, so that way people's eyes won't be drawn to it, but you get to choose as the performer when to draw that attention back, and suddenly now there's something inside. So you don't need to do anything special to set the timer. Just remember, when it's dark like this, you have a while in your performance, you can manually choose to show it again, or you can just leave it there and after a while it will fade back and whatever the object is will come into view. There is a battery in here. The battery will last a lot longer than you might think. You can leave it for, like I say, weeks, probably up to even months, depending on how often you perform it, and you won't need to replace the battery. But if you use it a lot, eventually it is going to start to run down. And there's two ways that you can know that that's happening. One is if you want to check how much battery is left, if you hold down both of these buttons, you'll see there's a little light down here at the bottom that blinks. And you'll get blinks based on how much battery life is left. So right now I'm getting 2. So blink, 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 blink. You have either 3, 2, or 1. 3 blinks, brand new battery. 2, it's still good, but you've used it some. And then when you get down to 1, that's when you want to think about changing it. But you don't need to be constantly checking it all the time, because the other thing that you will notice when the battery is starting to run down, the first thing that you'll see is when you press the button to hide the contents, you'll get just the slightest hint of what is inside. It won't be all the way black. And you'll probably notice that before your audience will. So if you see that happening, then you know, oh, I should change the battery. And that will just become a little bit less and a little bit less until you change it. So when you do notice either way that you want to change it, or if you're just starting a new set or something and you're just like, I want to make sure it's going to be ready to go, you can change this battery. So it's right here in this little holder. You may be able to just slide it out with your finger by just pressing there and then grabbing it from the other side. If you have difficulty with that, you can also use some kind of a credit card or something like that and push it out that way. And that might help you slide the battery out. And then you'll just take your new battery and you'll insert it the same way and turn on the switch if you had it turned off. The battery that's in here is a CR2016. And it's very important if you go to buy this battery, you should be able to get it at any CVS or convenience store, electronic store, anything like that. Just make sure it's this exact number because there's a few different batteries that are this size, but they're different thicknesses. And to make sure this whole thing is really thin, this is a really specially thin battery. So it's not that hard to find. You just want to make sure when you do buy them that you get the one that has this exact number 2016 on it. And it doesn't matter what brand it is. They'll all fit in here and work exactly the same. So one thing I do want to mention as well, because this will come up later, when you go to remove an object from here, playing card, business card, something like that, you just want to practice a little bit so that you can do it smoothly, because later on we'll talk about how to do a switch where it looks like you're removing what's in the wallet and really you're switching it for a different card. And you want it to look the same whether you're doing the switch or whether you're removing the item normally. So this wallet, the whole thing is designed to be very slim. And so if you try to just reach in here with your fingers, it may be kind of difficult to pull the card out. But what I would recommend is just use your thumb inside to get onto the top of the card. And then you can use your fingers on the back to just roll this zipper a little bit to expose more of the card to these fingers. And then you'll be able to slide out. And if you follow that kind of procedure, you should find it really easy to cleanly slide the card out. And that way it'll look the same as when you're doing a switch and you won't have to fumble with it. When you go to take a card out, you will just use your thumb. If you try to get in there with your fingers, it can be a little bit tough just because this is so slim. But if you just use your thumb, you can start to slide the card out. And then using these fingers on the back, roll the zipper a little bit and you'll be able to grab the card. And that way, when you go in here to remove a card, you can do it really smoothly and cleanly and it'll look the same as later when you do the switch. So now we're going to go into some of the routines and ideas for how you can use the wallet. I think once you start playing with it, you're going to come up with your own ideas of places that it can fit into tricks that you already do or new tricks that you might come up with. But this is just some ideas to get you started and get you able to go out the door right away and start performing with it. I got one of these new slim wallets and I was always worried about these because I used to have like the big thick billfold and I thought, I can keep my cards in here, but there's not going to be enough room for all my money. But what I found out is a lot of these new modern wallets, they have special features. So like this one, if I need money, say for lunch, you just think about how much money you need and it will actually appear inside the wallet exactly the amount that you needed. So I can pay for my lunch and I don't have to carry the big stack of bills. But then if there's like an old school parking meter and I need to put some change in there, again, you just think about it and the coins will actually appear exactly the amount that you need to pay for the parking. So it's so much more convenient. I don't have to carry nearly as much stuff with me anymore. All right. So this is, I think, a really fun routine and something that you're going to be able to start doing right away. You can make objects appear. And the thing that I think this really shows is you can actually make 2 or even 3 things appear as long as you can fit them all inside. So the setup for this, you're going to take the banknote, whatever currency you have, and you want to fold it so it will fit in here, but also so that it's going to cover this window. So I have a $20 bill and you'll see I didn't fold it perfectly in half. I have it a little bit off center and that way it's going to fully fill up the window, which is important to hide the coins, but I also just think it looks a little nicer. So you'll insert that. And then in order to be able to get the coins in as well, I like to not put it quite all the way in. The bill will almost act like a slide for you to be able to load the coins. So you'll take the 2 coins and put them into the back here. And when you're working with coins, you may find that they don't slide in straight away because the tightness of this area where the objects live is very specific. And it's actually like that intentionally to make sure that things don't slide out when you don't want them to. So in order to get the coins in, just take your hand and squeeze the sides a little bit, and then they're going to drop down and you'll see they're down here behind the bill. So that's the setup for this, is the coins in the back and then the bill just gets slid in front and just push it all the way down so that you'll be able to close the zipper. So I have this in my shirt pocket. Of course, you can keep it wherever you want. The nice thing about the shirt pocket is it gives you a good opportunity as you pull this out. If you put it in this orientation with the zipper here, this button that's on the right to hide what's inside is sticking up. And so when I go inside my pocket, I'm grabbing that button and therefore I'm activating the wallet, so I'm ready to start the routine. So I reach inside and remove the wallet, and this button, as long as you hold this down, this will stay dark. So if you're talking and introducing the trick, as long as you keep your hand here, the timer won't have started yet. So you can stay here for as long as you want. And then once you let go, that's when the timer will start. But of course you can just press it again if you realize, oh, actually I have something else I want to say. But you just keep it dark until you're ready to do the appearance. And then I'm kind of switching to my other hand. So my left hand is going to be activating the show button to reveal what's inside. And at the same time, just do some kind of move or gesture, however you want to make the magic happen. You could do it with a shake like that, or I like to snap and kind of move my hand across. If you want to be a little bit more kind of gradual with it, you can kind of wave your hand and do it that way. Just play around and see what type of appearance you like to do. But however it is, you're just going to be pressing that button at the same time as you're doing whatever your move is. So now we have the bill and we want to take this out, but we don't want to reveal the coins. So I'm going to unzip the zipper here and I'm going to go to remove this bill, but I want to at the same time remove it and activate the shutter again so that I'm hiding my next item that I'm going to reveal. Now, if you can get the timing right, you can do this pretty quickly like that and get the kind of visual almost as if this is the blank space behind the bill. But if you're intimidated by that, if you find that difficult, you don't have to. There's two things that will help you out. I'm going to take these out just to demonstrate. There's two things that will help you to be able to do this type of like switch move. One is your other hand is going to cover a little bit of this window. And depending on your positioning, you can be hiding quite a lot of it from the audience's view. So as the bill starts to slide out, only this area here is the part that the coins could show through. And so if your hand is like this, the more you tilt this towards the audience, the more your thumb is going to block that window. And so you don't have to worry that they're going to see what's under there because your hand can cover it for that split second. If you're worried about that, you can also just tilt back this way so they're looking at the back as if you're showing, look, it's really inside. And then you can just activate the window back here. And as you come back down, this is already activated so that you don't have to worry at all about them seeing the coins. So any way that you want to do it, you're going to remove the bill and at the same time activate the window in the wallet. And now you're ready to do your second appearance, exactly the same as the first. You can close the zipper if you want, you don't need to. But I'm starting by having just pressed the hide button here. And now I'm going to do the same exact move that I did before. And this time the coins are going to appear that were behind. And so the same thing I said before about these are held in here pretty tightly. So if you just tilt this around, they're not going to slide around much. And that will be helpful for you because when they're hidden, they're not going to make a noise. If you gesture a little bit, you don't have to worry they're going to clink together or fall out. But when you do want them to slide out, just again, use your hand to squeeze the sides a little bit, and that will free them up to be able to move. And so I just do it as kind of one gesture where I'm squeezing and dumping the coins out either into my hand or onto the table. And then you've produced two different items from the same empty wallet. All right, let's do a card trick. Now, the one thing with card tricks is, especially if you've seen one before, they can be kind of low stakes. So I thought to add to it, I'm going to try to find your card, and if I can't get it after 3 tries, you can have all the money in my wallet. The bad news is I did forget to go to the bank this morning, so I don't have a lot of money in my wallet, but you can have what's there, which is $20. So I'll have you just say stop. There, that's perfect. And that will be your card, the Jack of Hearts. So we will take that and we'll put it back somewhere in the deck. And now it is my job to try to locate that card. Okay, well that was my first try. I'm getting warmed up. It's not the 10 of spades, but we'll try again. I just need to... No, I think it's a little further. I think... Here. The King of okay, that's all right. That's also not it. Last try. Oh, you know, I think I know where it is, actually. I know exactly where it is. I think it's right over here. Inside my wallet, there's one card. Your card, the Jack of Hearts. So this is an example of a way to do like a card to wallet style of effect, but using a force card, so you don't need to do any kind of palming or anything like that to get the card inside, and you still get that magic of seeing the wallet empty and then the card appears. So similar to how we talked about with the coins, I have a card in here, and then I also have the bill in front of that. And it can be a little bit tricky when you're removing this bill to not have the card slide out a little bit at the same time. So there's a few things you can do to try to protect against that. One is you can use the fingers from this hand to kind of apply a little bit of pressure here, and that will just help you to make sure that the card stays where it is and only the bill comes out. You may also find you can kind of squeeze on this side a little bit, and that may help you as well to just have more friction there. But it's basically the same that we talked about before of kind of keeping track of your angles to make sure you're not revealing this card early. And just as you're removing the bill here, you're activating the shutter. If a little corner of this card does show, you have the bill right here. And so you can just kind of stick that back in with your other hand. But if you practice it, you can find ways to try to make sure that you just get what you want coming out. So once you remove the bill, then you're in this position where you've activated the shutter. It looks like the wallet is empty, but in fact, there's actually this card in here. And so you set that on the table and you set your bill on top. Now, your instinct is probably going to be that you need to line this up exactly to cover up the window. But you don't necessarily need to do that because people are not going to be looking over here because there's nothing interesting happening. They're going to be focused on the cards. And so if you have just a tiny little hint of the card that's going to show through here, it means that when you start to draw attention back here, you'll get someone kind of noticing, oh, I can see the card. And it gives you a little bit more of that, oh, how did he do that? So you can play around with how you want to do the positioning. If you're worried about it, you can, of course, completely cover this, but you can also leave a little bit exposed and you get a little bit more of that, like a card under glass kind of effect where some people will notice it slightly before others as you go to remove this bill. So that's your kind of setup for the trick. And now you're going to do a very simple card trick. You're going to force whatever card you have in there, just pull that out of a different deck, and you'll have a second one that goes in the deck that you're performing with. So in this case, I have the Jack of Hearts. Of course, you can use any card that you want. And what I did there was the riffle force. So very basically, you have the card that you want to force is somewhere in the middle of the deck, and you're just going to keep with a little bit of your pinky a break there so you know where that card is. And from the front, it should look like the deck is just squared up. But as you riffle down and you tell them to say stop, it doesn't matter if they say stop here or down here. Ideally, you want to kind of time it with how you ask the question so that they'll stop around the place where it actually is. But wherever it is, you're just going to take from this break that you already made. And so you're always giving them the same card, which is the card that you've already loaded. Then you return the card to the deck. And the nice thing is you don't really have to do any other controls or special moves. Of course, you can use this as the end to a longer card trick, but you can just put that card back in there and say that you're going to find it, cut the deck, and in all likelihood, this will not be their card. If it is, that's a good trick too, and you can just move on to something else. But the first time, of course, you get it wrong. Second time, you make a little bit of a bigger deal. You can act like you thought it was going to work the first time, and you're really trying to pay attention to how deep you are in the deck or something like that. Cut the cards again and show the incorrect card. And then on your third try, by now it's been long enough that the timer will have revealed this card underneath, and you act like you're going to cut the deck a third time, and actually you just remove this bill, and then they will see the card that is inside the wallet. And like we talked about before, now you're just removing this totally normal way, and they can of course look at that. It's an ordinary card. And now the card has appeared and you didn't have to do anything to sneak it in there. The wallet just does it for you. So I used to do a lot of card tricks, and I've been getting more into coin magic, but it always makes me kind of nervous because I always think I'm going to lose my coins. So I keep them in this wallet, but you know, I used to use quarters, and those are really small, so those are really easy to lose. And I thought the $50 I'd be less likely to lose them, but somehow it still happens. I don't really know where they go, but I just lose track of them. And so that's why I've been thinking I should just always keep them in here, and that way I'll always know where they are. So this is the trick that I really like to do with this wallet, is probably the most common one that I'll do. I like it because I like how the coins appear in here, and the black background of the wallet kind of looks the same as the black background with the coins in it. So I think it's a really striking appearance. I like the $50, and if you have two of them, they really fill up this window pretty well. But of course, you can use any currency that you want to use. And so the basic idea of this, similar to when we talked about removing one object and then activating the window again, you're doing a similar kind of move, except instead you're taking your coins and you're pretending to dump these out, and really you're taking coins that you have hidden behind the wallet. So you have your coins in finger palm, and again, because this is kind of tight, you don't have to worry that much that these are going to slide around. So if you just turn this, like, these are not going to come out of here accidentally. So just holding the wallet like this with my finger on the button there, I tilt, and I'm just dropping these coins from behind so it looks like that, and at the same time activating the shutter. And you can play around with the angles. Obviously, if you're away from the audience like this, they're definitely not going to see anything they're not supposed to see, but you can also get away with being pretty cheated towards them because of the motion, and you'll get a little bit more of that effect of like seeing the coins come out. But it doesn't really matter. You're just taking the coins out of your wallet. Nobody knows that anything special is going to happen. So at this point, I will typically zip up the wallet, although you can choose whether you want to or not. You may not want to because you can more easily dump them out at the end, but you might prefer it if you like the idea that it's more impossible because it's completely sealed. But either way, you will leave that on the table, and the timer is going to do its thing. And you have a few seconds now. I think when you perform, it's often you get kind of excited, you get kind of nervous, and you feel like you need to rush. But you really have long enough to take a beat here where you can take these coins out and actually show them right over top of the wallet. And that way you have a reason you're showing them the coins, but it also gives them a really clear view of, okay, there's nothing inside there. And so that allows you to kind of keep the frame to where you want to see. And then when you bring the coins up, that's when you're going to be able to do your magic and draw the attention away so that that timer can do its thing. And when you pull the attention back down, they'll see the coins appear. So if you use multiple coins, then you'll want to vanish multiple coins. I use a gimmick for this. This is a magnetic gimmick called a super triple coin. There's, of course, a lot of different coin gimmicks out there. You could use like a shell or a flipper coin, lots of different things. If you don't have any coin gas or you don't want to use them, you can just do one coin, put one coin in the wallet, and just do a single coin vanish. Or if you want, you can do two coins at the same time and put them into thumb clip so it looks like this. So just take your two coins, and as you go to, as if you were going to throw them in the other hand, you can kind of bring them together and put them up into your thumb clip like that. And that way you get the effect like you put them in the other hand. If you do that, you are in a slightly tricky position because these are going to want to make noise. And so you're probably going to want to ditch them. But if you ditch them both into the same pocket, you're going to hear them make the clink noise. So what you may want to do is just ditch one of them into your pocket. That'll be a lot quieter, and you can keep the other one. And now you're in the same situation, whether you used some kind of gimmick coin or using just normal coins, where you basically have one coin that you're keeping concealed, and you can just keep that in finger palm as you go down to grab the wallet. So you've done your vanish, you draw the attention back that the coins have appeared, and then you'll open the zipper if you closed it and just dump those out. And you've kind of completed the circle, and you're apparently back to where you started at the beginning of the routine. So something else you might want to keep in here is business cards. My business cards are actually playing card shaped, but normal business cards would be fine as well. And I'll actually give you one of mine. I think this is the last one of these that I've got in here. And since it is my last one, maybe we should do something a little special with it. We could do a little bit of magic. So I'm going to take off just the corner of this card. And if you were here, I would ask you to hold your hand out, but I'll just leave the corner here for now. And actually, with your other hand, I'm going to take my wallet, and I'll just put my wallet there as well. If you watch the card, I'll just put this in my hand and use the only magic wand I carry to make the card disappear. Because there's one place where I usually keep my business cards, and that's in my wallet. But if you look, the card in my wallet, the last one, is actually missing a corner. And it's the corner that I gave you. So you can hold on to that, and you'll remember that next time you think about me. Alright, so this is a fun thing that you can do with your business cards, and a nice way to give them out. You can, of course, keep them, some extras, in one of these pockets or somewhere else on you. But to get set up for this, you need 2 business cards. One of them you're going to prepare, and one of them is the one that you'll use at the beginning of the performance. So the first thing is you're going to rip the corner, whichever way around you want to hold it when you're performing. In this case, I have this red. It kind of matches the matte, and it's also just a little darker. So the white is going to give me better contrast with the black inside the wallet. So I'll keep the white side facing the same way the whole time, and that'll just help you keep everything organized. So you'll rip off the corner of the card. And then in my case, when I do the vanish of this card, I'm going to fold it into quarters. So I fold this one in quarters as well, so it matches. But you don't have to do that vanish. You could, burn it, or sort of pretend to burn it with flash paper, or there's lots of other ways. And you could just do like a back palm kind of vanish or something else. And so if you're not going to fold it in performance, don't fold it here. If you're going to burn it, you could singe this one a little bit, whatever you want to do to kind of help sell that it's the same card. But in my case, that just means I want to put the creases. So there it is. And same as we've been doing, I'm going to put this into the wallet, and then I'm going to put my undamaged business card on top. Might help if you put them in at the same time, on top of the other one, and that's going to hide that rip. And then I'm going to take my extra corner, and I'm just going to put this into this top pocket. I have in here a card, and I've actually put some double stick tape to keep it in place, and that way when I'm sliding things out, I don't accidentally pull this card out. And this other one is going to stay put really well because it's kind of tight in there with the circuit board and all. So that's just a tip. If you find that these slide out, you can just stick it down. And you'll put this corner here so it's ready for you to grab when you slide this card out. So you just want to make sure it's facing the same way. There's a red side and a white side to my card, so the white side is facing up, and that just lives right there. And now when you go to remove the card, you're doing the same kind of move we talked about before of just removing this top card and leaving this one behind. But there's just this additional wrinkle of you also are going to slide this corner so that you have it for a moment when you're going to switch it. So otherwise it's the same as we talked about before. As you're pulling this out, you can just tilt your hand a little bit to cover and activate the shutter. Now this looks empty, and you can zip this back up if you like. And this routine takes a little bit longer than some of the other routines, so you may not be able to get it done kind of in the time that the timer takes, but that's okay because you can just set this face down, and then when you're ready to get to that part of the routine, as you pick it back up, you'll activate that button. And so you have as much time as you want to leave it like this. They've already seen it empty once, and they'll see it empty again later, so you can just casually set it down. So now I'm here. I have my extra corner that matches the wallet, and I also have this card here. And so I'm going to rip, and I'm going to try to, as much as possible, keep it kind of in the same shape, the same pattern as how you ripped the first one. And now I have 2 corners in my hand, and they're very similar already, but I'm actually going to kind of switch it so that the corner that I give them is the one that came off of this card. So that one was the one that's in the back here. So as I go to say, put your hand out, you're putting all of this stuff in the same hand, and that gives you an opportunity to just push this front corner into the other hand. And so when you hand them this corner, you're actually giving them not the one that you just ripped, but the one that matches the wallet. And this corner will just stay with this card, and however you choose to vanish this, in my case, I fold it up and it just gets folded in there and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you hand them the corner. Now I'm going to fold up the card. And same as I did the coins, you know, you're just doing a kind of false transfer here. So you can do the vanish. If you use some kind of wand, you can use that, or just your phone. And once you've vanished the card, you're in a position to do the reveal. So when I go to do the vanish, you can place this either in their other hand or on the table in front of them, wherever you want to put it. And just remembering to keep enough timing with your pattern and how you like to perform so that you'll line up with the vanish happening, and then the window will already be done doing the reveal at that point. You vanish the card and you've got the corner here. The card reappears and they're going to see that rip. And this is a nice moment because they saw the card in here once and they know what it looks like, and they know that they couldn't see it. They could see the whole card, right? And now you have a really clear contrast of, oh, there's now this rip in it. And this is the only thing in here. So you're just sliding this out like normal. Make sure the zipper's all the way open. And then they'll be able to compare and see that that is actually the corner that you ripped off. And then they can keep both parts or just the larger piece, and they'll have your business card. All right, so we talked about one card trick earlier, but a lot of times you might be doing a card trick with a signed card. And so maybe it's an ambitious card or some other routine. You've had them pick a card, they've signed it, and you've just asked them to return it to the deck. And typically you would mix these up a little bit. And at some point in your routine, you say, you know what, we actually don't even need these cards. We can put these away because there's only one card that's really important here, and it's this one that I keep in my wallet. This card is really important to me because it brings back a lot of great memories of the time I did a trick for my friend James. All right, so this is probably one of the most advanced ways to use the wallet, and that is to do a switch, and you can do a signed card to wallet that way. So there's a lot of different kind of card to wallet versions, but typically with most of them, you don't see the card come out until the very end. And so you're somehow loading the card into the wallet and then you're pulling it out. This is a lot more like a mystery box. If you've ever worked with various items like that, where usually you'll have a folded card and you're dumping it out of a box or something like that. There's a lot of great options out there, but this is cool because you can use the whole card, so you don't have to do a Mercury fold, and it's just in your wallet ready to go. So I think it's a really nice option. Now, this is the kind of switch that we've alluded to a few times, where you're going to be removing a card from the wallet, and it's going to seem like it's the same one that was inside, but actually it's one that you've just kind of snuck in. So it's the one that they signed earlier. Now, one thing that is going to help you for this, obviously you've got kind of a decoy card in here, which is just for the visual. Since you're providing it yourself, you can use any deck of cards you like. I do think red cards are better than blue if you're using Bicycle for this particular effect, because it will show up a little better in the window, but you can use any deck you want. One thing I do recommend, you can just put a normal card in here, but what I've actually done is I've taken one of the cards from this deck and I've cut it just a little bit short and actually filled in the side with a black marker. And that gives me two advantages. One is it's less likely, if they see just the inside of the wallet after you remove the card, they're less likely to spot that there's something still in there because it is the same color as the fabric. And the other thing is, because it's a little bit shorter, this wallet is designed to be almost exactly the size of a playing card. And so when you go to remove this, you might like to wiggle this card a little bit to show, you know, it's not just like a picture of a card or something, and it helps to sell the motion of the switch. And so if you use the full size card, you don't have very much room to move it around, but because you've cut it a little bit short, you then can wiggle it around a little bit more with your thumb and just get a little bit more motion that way. So either way, you'll have loaded your kind of decoy card in the wallet. and then you need to get this card ready to be able to switch. So it's going to go underneath the wallet, and you're going to use your finger to activate the shutter like we've been doing. And apparently, you'll unzip and reach in as if you're going to take out this card, but really these fingers on the bottom are just pulling the one that's underneath the wallet, and this one is staying where it is. So you can play around with whether you want to go this way where you're removing the card, or where you're kind of more sliding the wallet. I think moving the wallet gives you a little bit more of the illusion of this being the same card, and you'll just want to practice the timing with that. Again, like with everything else, if you're nervous about the timing, you can cheat it a little bit this way, and you won't have to worry quite as much about perfectly matching when you press the button to when the card comes out. So there's a few different ways that you can get in this position. The way that I just did in the performance is kind of like a lateral palm. So if you know, like a Tenkai palm, it's a similar sort of position, but I'm keeping it with my middle finger here. Now, this is nice because it's exactly the grip that you're going to want to use with the wallet. So you just put your hand right here and you're exactly in position. The one tricky thing is it is a little bit angly. So this direction, you have some wiggle room, but if I go too much to either side, you're going to see this card. So to control that, you're going to be getting into that position as you put the deck in your pocket. You're just sliding this card into position as you come back out of your pocket. So if you keep your hand down by your side like this, obviously from this side you're covered. So that gives you a little bit more control over the angles there. And then as you do come up to the wallet, if you just stay kind of guarded, you keep this hand close to your body, that is going to help you make sure that there's less of an opportunity for someone to catch a peek of that card. So certainly in kind of small performing environments, I think that's a good way to do it, and you get into the right position. But if you are more surrounded or you're nervous about doing that, there are a couple other ways that you can get into that position. So one is you can use more of a traditional palm with your other hand off of the bottom of the deck like this. So this is their signed card. And now instead of holding the card here, I'm actually coming in with this hand and removing it this way. Now, the nice thing is the zipper gives you kind of an excuse to have your hand in this position. So you can come out, unzip this, and then either you're making just kind of a motion like you're sort of shaking the card out here, or you can kind of manipulate the card underneath and then do more like the normal switch like that. So that's one option for you if you'd rather palm with the other hand, and then you can show this very freely with this hand. And finally, if you're really close quarters, nervous about it, you can do a no palm version. So I've got the card here on top of the deck, and I pick this wallet up and I point to this card, and that's lining me up here so that I can just steal the card off of the top of the deck. So I'll just get a little break underneath and say, look, there's one card that I've been keeping inside here. Now I go to put these cards away so they're kind of out of the frame, but I've already got my card here and I'm ready again to do the switch the same way. And if you want, you can even use it second from the top. And if the card is second from the top, then you don't have to completely cover. You can be a little bit offset and you're just stealing that card from the second position, and they're seeing this top card the whole time, but again, you're able to steal that card. So there's lots of different ways that you can get ready to do your switch. It just depends on what feels comfortable for you and also the situation that you're in with regards to your angles. Now, there's one other way that you can do this as well, which is instead of having the card face down in here, you can actually have the card face up. So this is a combination of the routine we talked about earlier where you're using a force card and this one where you're doing a switch, because you'll notice if I take this jack and I place it inside the wallet, this white space on the side of the card is covered, so I can't see whether or not this is the signed card. And so if you just use a face card, it doesn't have a lot of space in the middle, so you force this card and you tell them, okay, just sign your name up in here so we can see it. They sign it. And the only thing is you do want to ideally keep track of kind of which side this is. So when you return it to the deck, have it in the right place and flip it over the right way so that when you go to do the switch, you're lined up with the signature on this side. And that is going to allow you then to get 2 moments of a reveal, because say you've got this in your pocket and, you know, this card has gone away. You reach in your pocket and first they see, oh, this is the Jack of Hearts. That's the card that I picked, but they don't know yet, is this the same one that I signed? And then when you go to do your switch, now that answers the question, yes, this is the same one that they signed. So depending on what you're comfortable with and how you want your routine to be structured, you have a lot of different options for doing card to wallet. You can use just a force, you can use a signed card with a decoy like this, or you could even combine them and then you get the 1-2 punch of first revealing the card and then showing the signature as you do the switch. So thanks so much for buying the Materializer wallet. I'm really excited to see what everyone's going to do with it. I just wanted to take a moment to thank some people who were involved and talk about some of the crediting and the history of the effect. So first of all, thanks so much to the whole team at Penguin Magic. As I mentioned, this is something that's been a long journey. We've had a lot of different prototypes and little tweaks to materials and how it's constructed, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So I just appreciate everyone who was involved in that. I specifically want to mention also my friend Kyle, who did some of the original electronics design for one of my very early prototypes. And that was really instrumental in being able to show it to people and start figuring out how it could work. And I also want to mention a guy named John Park, who wrote an article for Adafruit, which is kind of a maker hobbyist electronics store. And they have this article about this project he did for putting a light filter like this in kind of a wooden display box. So that's an example that I found when I was doing some of my early research of somebody else that was using this kind of technology in like a illusion special effects kind of way. So I wanted to mention that as well. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I hope you'll leave us a review, and that way other people will know your thoughts and how you feel about it. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what everyone comes up with. I hope you have a lot of fun.